You're listening to The Gary Harris Show on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa.
Miss Walker County. Click TuscaloosaThread.com for more local news, sports, and weather coverage all throughout the day. It's absolutely free. Don Hartley, Town Square Media, Tuscaloosa.
The Gary Harris Show. UCM host Tider Insider TV. Crimson Tide Kickoff. Play-by-play for Alabama sports and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
As you just heard from Barry Sanderson on the Wimp and Barry Show this morning, Gary's spending some time at the beach. And, man, it was really cool last night for him to send us a picture of him eating a huge steak at the beach. And meanwhile, we're back in central Alabama with all the heat and humidity. But anyway, welcome into the show. Matt Coulter with you. Just a real privilege to sit in for Gary on Tide 100.9 and 1230 WTBC. In addition to myself, Wyatt Fulton and Chase Brumfield are in the studios in our home base. Wyatt, how are you today?
Doing all right. We're rocking and rolling here. I'm excited for the weekend. It's been a very busy week for us here at Tide 100.9, but it's been fun. I always tell everybody, look, I wake up I wake up early, but I wake up every morning and I get to write about sports and talk about sports for a living. So I've got a pretty daggum good job.
It's the best job in the history of the world. I know that others in different vocations would probably challenge me on that. But, what we do is really, really cool. And as I said yesterday, if you do something like this that you love, you really never work a day in your life. But, hey, Wyatt, did you watch the debate?
I did not. I actually watched the second round of the NBA draft, and then I started watching a little bit of Texas's spring game, getting ready for SEC Media Days. So I saw all the memes on Twitter and on social media, but I did not actually watch the debate. I figured I'd actually do something productive with my time.
Well, I think it will hopefully please our listeners to Tide 100.9 and 1230 WTBC that we will not be talking about the debate. Is that okay with you?
That works for me.
Oh, my, what a crazy world we live in. The only thing I will pass comment on about the debate is that there was at one point where Biden and Trump were talking about their golf handicaps. And one said they were a 6, the other said they were an 8. And I went, what? We're trying to elect a president here. Do I really want to know what they shot at Torrey Pines? But anyway, here's my debate. And Wyatt, I'm throwing this right at you. I'm throwing high and tight right off the bat. If we were going to debate anything today, and we've got guests, but I want to take calls in the entire 2 hours of the Gary Harris Show. I want to take calls on the debate of all time in Alabama football history. Wyatt, you ready for this?
I'm ready for it.
I've given you absolutely no preparation time on this, okay? Best Alabama football coach. Paul William Bryant, Nick Saban.
This is Alabama football and not career.
No, it is just the University of Alabama. And if you need a little time, get your notepad out, do a little homework. The thing about this is that, in high school and debates, and at every level when you're having a debate, you will go to the podium and they will hand you your side. You don't know if you're going to be arguing for Saban or Bryant, and then you have to argue either side, which one you are actually, selected. So I'm just curious because I thought about this in depth last night while I was drifting off during the debate. Who is the greatest football coach at the University of Alabama? And there have been many, and many national champions, but only 2 have 6. That's Nick Saban and Paul William Bryant. So What do you think? Give me your best shot here, White. And I really want folks to call in. Let's talk about this for the first half hour or so. And I want you to get serious with this. Call us at 205-342-9904. You can also download the app and message us as well. But I've given you a little bit of time here, and you are of, I guess, 2 generations prior to mine. So I would think you would lean Saban, but I'm not going to put words in your mouth. Who do you think the best Alabama football coach was? Saban, Brian?
My answer is going to be Saban. I never saw Bryant coach. I never was alive when Bryant was coaching or even was around, the short period of time after he was done coaching. I watched probably the greatest dynasty ever growing up in the world of sports. This is going to really make you feel old, Matt, and I really do feel sorry, and I really do apologize for this.
You don't have to point things out to make me feel old. I know I'm old. But,
I was, let's see, he took the job in January of 2007. I was 5 years old when Nick Saban was hired at Alabama.
Yeah, you're right. You did make me feel old.
I was 5 years old when he got hired. I was eight, I believe. Yeah, 8 years old when he won his first national championship. And after watching that first national championship, fell in love with the University of Alabama, fell in love with the process and what Coach Saban was doing in Tuscaloosa. You can count the amount of home losses he had on your hands. He had almost double the amount of first-round draft picks compared to losses, just in total losses, at the University of Alabama. He played in arguably the hardest era of college football with the transfer portal, NIL, and won 2 national championships with it. He had to deal with so many different issues with assistant coaches, from Lane Kiffin to Steve Sarkisian to Pete Golding and Bill O'Brien to Tommy Rees to Tommy Rees wanting to start Tyler Buckner over Jalen Milroe. It was just something that, I think Nick Saban definitely had one of the tougher times here at the University of Alabama. Looks like we got you back, Matt. I think Nick Saban had one of the toughest opportunities with the modern era of college football. He figured out, defense and run game wins you championships, until it didn't, when the offense readjusted and hurry up offense, spread offense became a thing thanks to Oregon. So what did he do? He went and hired, at the time, the best offensive mind in college football in Lane Kiffin, reinvented his entire scheme, his entire offense, and won a national championship off of. And he was faced with one of the toughest decisions I think a coach is ever going to have to make in game, in that your starter, who has won 25 straight games, is not winning you this game. You were down 13. You were down what felt like 30-0, but you were down 13-0 at halftime of the national championship game, and decide, you know what? I'm going to pull the kid who is 25-2 as a starting quarterback. One of those losses, by the way, was a national championship game. The other one was in probably the toughest place to play in the country if you're Alabama, in Jordan-Hare Stadium. I'm going to pull this kid, and this true freshman who has only ever seen snaps when we're up by 35, he's going to go in while we're down by 13 and wins a national championship off that. I think it's Nick Saban, and that's not discrediting anything Bear Bryant did. I've done my research there. But I think the greatest coach is Nick Saban.
Well, I'm of a different generation. I'm old school in this situation, and I was very blessed to have covered Coach Bryant in his last couple of years at the University of Alabama when I first got into the sportscasting business. So I knew him. I'm not going to say we exchanged Christmas cards or anything like that, but I sat in his office. We knew each other. I remember one time that he said, "Matt, Mary Harmon says your cameras are horrible, that I look bad on the news." I had that kind of relationship with him. But this is one of those situations, as I said at the top of the show. By the way, chime in. I want to know what you folks think as you listen to Tide 100.9 and 1230 WTBC. Call us 205-342-9904. And following last night's debate, we're debating University of Alabama football coaches. You got Paul Bryant and you've got Nick Saban. It's so close, Wyatt. I mean, there's just so many different ways. I think about Bryant and then I think about Saban and how they paralleled in their abilities to adapt culturally and to adapt as far as the football game is concerned. They did that in an unbelievable fashion, and they both did so with a certain charm and charisma that I think can only really be achieved at the University of Alabama. I want to know what you guys think. I will continue to chime in here, but Pat has called in at 205-342-9904. Pat, your opinion on this debate or whatever else you want to talk about on a Friday.
Bryant had a lot of adversity having to deal with the bias of Northern writers, and Northern writers had the most votes, the most people to vote. The stronger newspapers were in New York and West Coast and blah, blah, blah. And Bryant had to really, really get out and push for national titles that he got, because it was rarely, sometimes you got to win it on the field, but Coach Saban got to win them on the field. And so I got to hand it to Coach Saban as being definitely the greatest coach, because Coach Saban was limited on scholarships, whereas Coach Bryant would give scholarships to kids just to keep somebody else from getting them.
So right. Yeah, I've heard this, and I don't have any facts on this, but it was my understanding that he had such dominance in the athletic department that he would, he'd put some kids under golf scholarships just to keep them away from UT. You're right. I've heard that.
And that was he could figure out how. Well, he was the athletic director, for God's sake.
Oh yeah.
And so you got to say, I mean, he was chief cook and bottle washer. He did it all. But now Coach Saban, in all fairness, Coach Saban knows how many kernels of popcorn was in each recruit's popcorn box.
Yes.
I mean, Coach Saban was such a detail man, and I think Bryant was probably more of a big idea guy. And but do you not see Coach Saban as being more hands-on and knowing what's going on in just about all aspects of the game?
I think at times that has run through my mind, but then I think, Coach Bryant, and that's the thing about it, when you start talking about these two magnificent coaches, the thing about it is that every time I think of one personality or one coaching trait or one teaching trait that one has, I think, well, so did Bryant, so did Saban. In terms of longevity, what Saban did in 17 years is, if you just put that out there, it's pretty hard to top. But what Coach Bryant did from 58 to 82, here's the one thing, Pat, and I urge anybody to come up and talk about this with us at 205-342-9904. But I did some extensive research last night in my own brain. And the one thing that I think sets Bryant a little bit above Saban is the fact that when he started coaching at the University of Alabama, he was coaching GIs, crew cuts, guys that were tough as a pine knot. Not necessarily the most talented. Saban got unbelievably talented. So did Coach Bryant. But from 58 through 82, I think that Paul Bryant had to overcome more cultural changes. I mean, we're talking about going from crew cuts to afros, And I didn't see that happening from 07 until January of this year. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, and but the biggest thing with Bryant was he had the ability to adapt also. When he went to California or went to Birmingham and Sam Bam Cunningham beat us like a drum. That he said, I got to get me some of those guys, And when he came back to Tuscaloosa and he started that, Coach Bryant was the main reason, or was the reason, that the players are today at Alabama the way they are. And but as far as ability goes, Coach Bryant had 2 running backs that should have won the Heisman, or should have been more. Alabama should have done a whole lot more for him to win the Heisman. We had one that finished 4th in Musso, but also Major Ogilvie. Major Ogilvie was extremely special. He won. He was the man that made the 2 national championships happen back to back.
He's one of my all-time favorite Alabama players, and I think that a lot of people from my generation would say the same thing. I run into Major every once in a while. He is still the most humble, unassuming All-American I've ever met in my life. He's gone on to a very, very successful business career, but I'll see him in a social setting, and he doesn't stand out. He doesn't want to stand out. Here's a question for you, Pat.
Yeah.
I guess it could change now because of 5, 6, 7 year eligibility, but for a while, Major Ogilvie held a record that could only be tied. Do you remember what it was?
Well, I can't tell you that, but I can tell you about Major Ogilvie in the state championship game. He ran for 316 or 19 yards, and a fellow by the name of Marty McDowell for Murphy had 280-something yards receiving and went on to play at Mississippi State.
Yep.
But Major Ogilvie was the most special high school runner that I think I've ever seen. At one time playing at that high level. Hey, there's a kid named Alvin Henderson down in at a little 1A school. I don't know if he's going to be if he was in a big pond, if he'd be a big fish or not. But in a small pond, he's a very big fish. Yeah, the kid was averaging close to 300 yards a game this past year. And he's going to the Barners is what's so sad. Anyway, I hear music or something or other. I know y'all got to go. Hey, but have a blessed weekend.
All right, Pat. Thank you. You have a blessed weekend as well, and you need to be in radio if you can follow your cues on music just like that. I'll give you the answer to the Major Ogilvie trivia question. We'll take a call from Tom. On the other side of this break, you're listening to the Gary Harris Show on Tide 100.9 and 1230 WTBC.
First purchase. Love it or return it for free. That's LUMEdeodorant.com, code 201 to save 15% today. LUMEdeodorant.com.
As much as Innisfree has evolved, it will always be that place to escape and have a good time. Whether it's for a game day weekend, to reminisce on college days, or to create new memories, if you're looking for a good time, there's only one thing to do. Head to the Free at 1925 University Boulevard. And don't forget about the Lucky Lunch Meat and 3 special. Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. until 2 p.m. Get a meat and 3 vegetables for just $8.49. Or for a lighter appetite, try the Lucky Lunch soup, salad, or sandwich combo. I'll see you at the Free.
Life doesn't wait for when your finances are in perfect order. It just happens. But no matter what surprises come your way, Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgages, and auto loans. They offer an easy application process and fast decisions so you can stay focused on feeling good about whatever life brings your way. Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgages, and auto loans. Alabama Credit Union, loans for real life. Visit alabamacu.com to learn more. Some rules and restrictions apply. See if you're eligible for membership, then join today and feel good about your money.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The sky partially sunny today. A chance of widely scattered showers or thunderstorms. The high 93. Tonight fair with the low at 75. And tomorrow a mixture of clouds and sunshine with scattered showers and thunderstorms around. The high 92. I'm James Spann on the ABC 30-40 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 83 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
You see him on WVUA 23 covering sports and on Tider Insider TV on Tuesday nights. Don't miss a minute of the Gary Harris Show. Weekdays from 9 to 11 on Tide 100.9.
Gary Harris is at the beach celebrating his birthday. Good for him. I hope he's having a marvelous time, and I hope he's already at the beach, put his umbrella in the sand, and he's ready to go. Anyway, Matt Coulter filling in. Glad to do that on Tide 100.9 and 1230 WTBC. In honor, I don't even know if that's the right word to use, but following the debate of last night, I decided to have one that I think is certainly more sports talk worthy. And Bryant or Saban, your reasons and so forth. I want to bring Tom on. He's been on hold. I appreciate you hanging through the break. And I'll re-ask the question posed to Pat. And that's, at one time, Major Ogilvie held a college football record that could never have been broken. Now it could be with eligibility rules and all that. Do you know which one I'm talking about, Tom?
Yeah, the most tearaway jerseys ever worn by.
Oh, that's good. Actually, Major scored a touchdown in 4 consecutive bowl games.
Really?
And you think about that now, it's probably not that big a deal. But back then, when you could only have 4 years of eligibility, you had to get to a bowl.
Yeah.
2 of them were in national championship games. So.
No, yeah, he was. I agree with you. What a high character individual, and
no question,
one of my all-time favorites too.
Oh, yeah. He's one of those guys that I put top shelf because they were such great players, but equaled off the field. And Coach Bryant wasn't one to really point out individuals. You know that, Tom. You've been around.
Yeah,
but he didn't mind throwing praise on Major Ogilvie. In fact, I remember one time Coach Bryant got to a post-game conference, and this might have been maybe even against Penn State or something like that. But he got in there and he said that darn Major Ogilvie missed a block, 17 out of 18, and he missed 18. That's just, and Coach Bryant loved Major Ogilvie, and that's another reason why he.
Hello?
Hey, we may be having some connection issues with Matt there, Tom. Sorry about that.
I think so. That's okay. I'll hang on.
I think we are having some connection issues. So, just what was Matt talking with you about there?
Well, he was talking about Major Ogilvie, but I called in to participate in the debate. I thought you nailed it with your analogies and take on Coach Bryant, Coach Saban. I thought you were good with that. But I was going to say there's one thing that stands out to me about Coach Saban versus Coach Bryant and makes Coach Saban the greatest coach in this conversation.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with either answer. I mean, by
no.
any stretch of the imagination.
But here's the tiebreaker for me. Coach Bryant never beat Texas. He struggled against Notre Dame, and Coach Saban killed both of them.
He did. There were teams there, though, as well that had, I'm not going to say had Coach Saban's number, but he struggled with as well there for a little bit, I will say. Ohio State was a team. Oklahoma got the better of them, even in the middle of that dynasty.
Yeah, but, nobody dominated him. Texas dominated Coach Bryant.
That is true. There's nobody that really dominated Coach Saban's Alabama teams.
Right. And everybody, Pat and others have made points that are so true about the difference in the eras and the level of competition and the restrictions on competition, this, that, and the other. All of those are great. and it really comes down to a matter of opinion. But I really think that those are the deciding factors. I mean, they're so close. Matt's right about that.
Oh, it's like I said just a minute ago. I'll probably say it several more times before we get to 11 o'clock. When I think I've discovered maybe an edge that one had over the other, I went, well, he did that too, you know?
Yeah. Here's the deal with me. I love Coach Bryant. I grew up in the Coach Bryant era.
Sure.
I grew up in his era, but I enjoyed Coach Saban. Does that make any sense?
Golly, Tom, I want to write that down and put it on 5,000 T-shirts because you just said what's been in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, we think alike. I mean, I used to run into you all the time at, I remember my wife is here with me, and we remember running into you at the earthquake game in Baton Rouge. I know you don't remember it, but we do.
I remember that game. I'm sure I remember me. I always tried to really embrace people that would recognize me, and I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Wow. I could do, golly, was that an incredible college football game?
It was crazy. Craziest thing I've ever been to in a college football game. Never, ever seen anything like it. And you want to talk about knocking teeth out? I watched the second half from down on the field, and it was scary. Mm-hmm. It was scary how hard they were colliding. It was it was some kind of ball game.
Oh God!
See you, Matt.
Chills. All right, hey Tom, thank you. Hey, coming up next, David Kendrick from the SEC Network is going to join us. This has been a fun first 30 minutes. Let's keep going right here on the Gary Harris Show. I'm sitting in. I'm Matt Coulter, and you're listening to Tide 100.9 and 1230 WTBC.
Double whammy, basically double or nothing.
You earn, we match. Discover Cashback Match. See terms at discover.com/creditcard.
Since 2011, Billy's Sports Grill, located on Main Avenue in historic downtown Northport, has been serving their legendary signature chicken sandwich, award-winning wings, and handcrafted cocktails. Billy's is also the spot to watch all your favorite sporting events with big screen, high-definition televisions in both dining rooms, at the bar, and outside on the beautiful patio. Come by and say hello to Kim and Lisa, the Billy's Management Dream Team. Billy's, good food, good friends, and good times.
Never miss a moment of the action. Download the free Tide 100.9 app today.
Happy Friday. And happy birthday. A day late, Gary Harris. He's taking some time going to the beach. Good for him. Matt Coulter with you. Long time sportscaster in the state of Alabama, and just, dang glad to meet you. Good to be here. David Kendrick joins us now. David works with the SEC Network, and he joins us on Tide 100.9. David, well, I don't think we've ever met in person. I know of you. How are you today?
Matt, I'm doing well. Well, I was going to say maybe we should meet in person at some point. You're talking about Gary Harris, a late happy birthday to him. I actually saw him right before he went to the beach at a local restaurant. He was getting ready to go and get some R&R as he needs to, but I'm happy to be sitting here talking a little baseball with you.
Oh, man. I could talk baseball all day long, but I started the show with following last night's debate. Okay, we're not debating that, okay? David, I'm not going down that road. Paul Bryant or Nick Saban? I'm going to get your vote on that, and then we'll just talk about a lot of other stuff.
Oh, man, you don't put me on the spot.
And I am. I'm you're Lou Brock here. I'm putting you at the top of the order.
Oh, man, I mean, I'm going to go again. Obviously, you can't go wrong with either one. Both are obvious legends and done so much for respected sports. I just go with the first one, Coach Bryant. Then, just from a standpoint of what he set as a platform of expectation and I would say really put football on the map. I was casually listening to y'all. Y'all were kind of debating. Obviously, what I'm thinking about is, how do you put both of these together? Obviously, both were winners, won championships, developed great players, taking them to the pros, but also developing men. But I just was thinking about y'all were talking about the avenues of what they were going through. The integration of players and different avenues of what college athletics just was not what it is today. And I think you can make a case for guys, one being like Coach Bryant, really, set the platform for putting college athletics on the map when maybe pro athletics were the one thing. So my long and short answer there, but obviously Coach Saban is still doing stuff more than just being the coach of that.
All right. Where do we begin? You know what I want to do, David? I'm just going to be not radio-like and just ask you, are you kin to the Dave Kindred that used to work for the Washington Post? Do you get that often?
I am not. I do get that often. I guess when somebody, if you Google my name, a prolific journalist, sports writer, I am no kin to the other Dave Kindred. I am not. So I don't have his journalism and writing skills, but I'd like to say that maybe my athletic performance outdid, which that's all I got.
I'm sure it did.
So I'm not related.
Dave never struck me as a guy that could turn on a fastball. Okay, but you played at the University of Alabama, and to me, as a longtime baseball fan, since I first picked up a bat and smelled a glove and saw the diamond and the cut grass, anybody that ever played at your level is a hero, and I mean that. I told my wife one time, I said, back in the day, some of these minor leaguers that they, signed or went in the 50th round of the draft, they make $1,250 a month. I said, I would take that in a heartbeat and quit everything I'm doing just to play at that level. Tell me, David, here's a good question for you. What do you love about baseball?
Matt, baseball is just a glorious sport, and I say that from my lens, and I heard what you were saying. It's just a nostalgic, and everybody has a memory, whether it's Little League, Babe Ruth League, all the way to high school. No matter how far or short you played, baseball has a memory to it to some degree. Everybody can connect with it. It happens in the spring and summer where everybody's just naturally excited. I just think baseball is it's like a book somewhat. It's got chapters to it at times, and it's one of those games where you play. You have failures, you have successes. Unfortunately, more failure in baseball than anything else. But people that are fans and play it, it's just it's like a book, and it's one of those things. You pick up the book from where you last left off, and then you read some good chapters. You experience some low times, but it's one of those where you get back up and you get to play again. And for those that get to play like myself in college, it was a dream of mine to always do that as a young kid, and it just happened to come true for me playing starting out at Ole Miss, and then finally coming back to the school that I loved at Alabama. And for guys like you, that I love this conversation, and because you're a fan of baseball. My expertise is more in college baseball, but I'm a fan of baseball. I love baseball, and I think that's what Tuscaloosa and the state of Alabama needs more of, is talking college baseball. And I think where we're going in this conversation is we need more fans and need more guys like you that have a love for it and are talking about it around the clock.
I tell people this all the time, and it's true. I now have grandkids that play baseball, and I rarely miss a game. Of course, I'm semi-retired, so I can afford to do that. But if his game is going to be late or something like that, I'll walk to the adjacent field and watch a team, little leaguers, 9-year-olds that I don't know any of them, but I'll just watch it. It's just for, the movie title, for the love of the game. And it's just so perfect in many ways. And if I may wax poetic here real quick, David, baseball has the best one-on-one match with a pitcher versus a hitter. And I don't know that it gets any better, any more intense, but you can't win without the other 8 guys. You understand what I mean? It's a perfect team, but it offers you that individual time to shine too. So that's my take on it. Okay, let's stop talking about me. Where is the state of Alabama baseball right now?
Alabama baseball today, I think, coming off of Coach Rob Vaughn in his first year, one of the young, up-and-coming coaches, youngest coach in the SEC. I think Greg Byrne has done a great job of finding a guy like Rob Vaughn who knows today's avenue of today's players and expectations with what we have in today's college athletics of NIL and transfer portal, and a guy that can pivot and knows how to deal with it in Rob Vaughn. And I thought for first year for Rob Vaughn, let's be real honest, he didn't come into a problem. I think now there were obviously problems that they had to go through off the field from prior coach, but the team was somewhat intact, and I think it was a very good team. And I think for Rob Vaughn in his first year, I think you as fans have to be really pleased. And I think what we're going to talk a little bit more is maybe the next couple years and what he's having to deal with against opponents. But Matt, I really think that first year, if you're a continued Alabama baseball fan, you got to be really pleased with who's leading you and the direction of where Alabama baseball is going.
David Kendron from ESPN, the SEC Network, is joining us here on the Gary Harris Show. David, where does Alabama need to improve right now in order? I mean, we know how competitive the SEC is. Good grief. But Alabama's not where they quite need to be to compete with the Vanderbilts, the Tennessees, and the A&Ms. Where does Alabama need to sharpen their knife?
Matt, and that's a very good question. I know you're saying that, and I appreciate you painting the picture that way. And that's in no way, I know you're saying that in no way to detour or make, say Alabama baseball is not, on the same, they are a very good program, and you've probably traveled enough and you've seen and you've followed college athletics enough to know that there's throughout the SEC, and now, we've just added Texas and Oklahoma, who have a perennial, very good athletic baseball program. There's a lot of emphasis around the SEC in it, specifically to baseball. And I think that Alabama has done a good job with providing resources to it. But as you know as well as I do, Alabama's got a really nice stadium. But if you go to any other college baseball stadium, it's just as many or more, and they're continuing to get better and stack better players there. And I think you're seeing some of the best. I think that, again, if you follow athletics, college baseball, and especially in the SEC, which we're going to talk about the dominance of just, teams that go to Omaha and the SEC teams to win it. You got, the SEC from top to bottom, now that you're including Texas and Oklahoma, is from top to bottom the best. And I would say in specific sport, if you laid them down amongst the power sports that you see. And so for Alabama, to answer your question directly, is I think that it's just for Coach Rob Vaughn, you obviously have to work with the resources you have. And that's something we can talk about, that, something that they're a little bit behind on, but this athletic department, you got to continue to see the resources, get Coach Rob Vaughn more resources. And I say small things like I was thinking about it. I was thinking about our call. I was thinking radio. I mean, every team that I've done games for, when I'm sitting in the booth doing SEC network, I get to talk with a lot of radio guys who are friends and colleagues and people that I've stepped up from former playing and coaching that, you know, radio guys, there's a full litany of radio guys. And I think for us right now, I think Alabama maybe has one radio guy and they're really good in Roger Hoover, but having more resources and more color guys, and those are things that just pronounce and promote because you need more fans to cover it. It needs to be a year-round deal where we have fans and guys like you talking about it. I think those are the small things that you can't control that need to continue for Alabama baseball.
Is Alabama baseball, is that program getting enough help on the NIL end? I mean, everybody wants more, you know, but that is the climate of today in college sports. You got to pay kids. I mean, that's the bottom line, David. Is Alabama getting the kind of support? Is Vaughn rallying that?
I think he is getting the support. Now, I will tell you, is it the most support of the SEC? Absolutely not. And I think Alabama coaches prior to Rob Vaughn in the last 10 to 20 years have been so creative in how they navigate a true 11.7 scholarship. And I think when you peel the onion back and see the what Alabama coaches and what Alabama baseball has done to be competitive in the SEC amongst all these other schools that have the, you know, state lottery or a private institution like you talked about at Vanderbilt, where when it's you know, they can offer at-risk scholarships, and you know they're playing with, you know, before we were talking about NIL and transfer, playing with, you know, 24, 25 scholarships where Alabama's been playing with 11.7. So it's just not an even playing field. But to answer your question, they are getting the resources, but you know as well as I do, these coaches are having to turn into recruiters. They're recruiting players. They're recruiting more. They're recruiting people to give to a program. They're politicians that are having to do this, and all these coaches are having to do it.
Hey, you know the business. We need to take a break. Would you please hang on? Let us talk to you for another 5 minutes on the other side of this. Can you do that for me, David?
Let's do it.
All right. Hour one of the Gary Harris Show is brought to you by Alabama Credit Union. Visit alabamacu.com to learn more. Alabama Credit Union, loans for real life. Some rules and restrictions apply. See if you're eligible for membership, then join today and feel good about your money. Cha-ching. And put a little extra change in your pocket. We'll be right back.
Coming up on The Game with Ryan Fowler.
Coming up on the Friday edition of The Game, we're going to react to some recruiting news involves the University of Alabama that is expected to happen shortly before we start at 2 p.m. We're also going to feature Scott Cochran. Going to be an in-depth conversation, 2 different segments to talk with him. Scott Cochran, a former strength conditioning coach at the University of Alabama. We're going to honor Coach Saban and talk about a group that he has founded. We'll talk about that. Brent Beard, right here on a Free-for-All Friday, sponsored by Brian Hardin Construction, starting at 2 p.m. on The Game on Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
The longest running sports program.
Or text DEAL to 511-511.
Your order is backed with a 90-day guarantee.
All dogs are unique. Your dog results can and will vary. Message and data rates may apply.
If you haven't already, you've got to try Tuscaloosa's unique breakfast, brunch, and lunch concept. Brick and Spoon, downtown Tuscaloosa, Timerson Square. It's fresh food with a Cajun flair featuring a full bar with build-your-own Bloody Marys and mimosas. Open daily, 7 a.m. until 2 p.m. Available for after-hours events, rehearsal dinners, receptions, and birthdays. They offer brunch and lunch catering. Call Brick and Spoon at 205-345-5551 for more information.
Tuscaloosa's Old Colony Golf Course is an 18-hole championship layout designed by 1976 U.S. Open champion Jerry Pate. Director of Golf John Gray and fitting specialist Bob Montgomery are PGA certified. Mike Shivitz is the head professional and director of the Tuscaloosa Junior Golf Program. Call today to secure a tee time at the Tuscaloosa Championship Golf Course. Everyone can play. 205-562-3201. Old Colony is operated by Para.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The sky partially sunny today. A chance of widely scattered showers or thunderstorms. The high 93. Tonight fair with the low at 75. And tomorrow, a mixture of clouds and sunshine with scattered showers and thunderstorms around. The high 92. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 85 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
You're listening to the Gary Harris Show. On your home for Alabama sports, Tide 100.9, and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Gary Harris is taking a couple of well-deserved days off. He's down at the beach. Meanwhile, Matt Coulter is going to sit in for him today, and then again on Monday. So appreciate all of you dialing in. Our guest is David Kindred from the SEC Network. We're talking some baseball. The big news, David, since the conclusion of the College Baseball World Series, which, by the way, you can give quick comment on that. From game 1 through Monday, there was just some great baseball. And what do you expect? It was the SEC. So you comment on that, but the story is about Schlossnagle and him leaving A&M going to Texas. Just your thoughts on that, and did that stun you like it did me?
Let me answer your first part, and yes, you're absolutely right. If you love just college baseball at all, obviously you're tuned in to the College World Series. It's the ultimate show, and you're seeing the best baseball. You had the first, Matt, I believe it was the first 3 games were walk-off at the end of the game. It was an amazing World Series. Roughly 10 days of baseball that you're going to get to watch, and the top-tier talent, I believe, SEC and ACC only. SEC taking 5 teams, and no surprise, you obviously had Tennessee versus Texas A&M, and I believe that the last 2 teams playing were the best too. Gary, I don't know if he's listening out there. He picked it the favorite, Tennessee. He said, "Hey, Tennessee's going to win it." But weirdly enough, since 1999, the number 1 seed had never won it, and Tennessee broke that. And then Texas A&M comes through and plays for the championship. Who plays, unfortunately, doesn't get the win. But that was my pick. They had such a top to bottom great team. I called that game on the network for Alabama and Texas A&M. Good grief, that was a great. They lost their best player, who's a center fielder, who's going to be a top 5 or 6 overall pick in Braden Montgomery. Prior to in the Super Regional, lost the left-handed pitcher in Shane Sadeo. And they were still able to play for the championship, which is wild. But yes, a great World Series, and yes, the wild news post right after the national championship game, where such a Texas, we talk about Alabama and Auburn type of, rivalry, jockeying back and forth. Such a Texas athletic thing to do, to throw out an announcement that they were relieving their current Texas baseball coach the day of the national championship game, just to try to water down the news for Texas A&M playing for the national championship. And, Coach Schlossnagle, who, was the head coach at Texas A&M and had really built something really strong there since he's been there. He's been TCU's taking them to the College World Series, and next day makes the announcement that he is indeed taking the Texas baseball job. And I will tell you, it doesn't matter in any sport you're talking about. These guys are constantly, this is game-changing money for them, and I think obviously it makes the decision a whole lot more enticing when Texas is going to be moving into the SEC. And not only did Texas get Schlossnagle, they took the entire staff from Texas A&M. The entire coaching staff. It's like just like the team at Texas A&M can't even have an exit meeting. Everybody's gone. That was just the wildest thing, and I think that's one of the things that it had to be the right thing. And for them. And unfortunately, you see right after the coach is making the announcement, 12 to 15, I think 15 now Texas A&M players are now in the portal. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, where they go.
Well, I think we all know. Well, maybe not all 15, but I think a lot of them are moving from College Station to Austin. It's just, that's crazy. But, these two teams have been having a rock fight since they were back in the Southwest Conference. This is nothing new. But they're bringing all that intensity and all that money and all that excitement to the Southeastern Conference with the addition of Texas, and I think that's very, very cool. Before I let you go, top of the hour, this is a question from Matt on the broadcast end. I've been so blessed to have done a lot of baseball games. What do you like about doing on air with baseball?
Well, Matt, I'll tell you, obviously my background, got fortunate enough to play college baseball, coach it for 2 years at Alabama as well. And, and sometimes, life and the Lord have different plans for you. I always thought that I was always going to be a coach and always be involved in athletics, but it's not always the case. And, you have so many colleagues, your former teammates, and not all those guys are now, some of those guys are now coaches. Some of those coaches that coached me are still coaching. And it's just like this when we're you're as hosting the show, you make it so enjoyable. It's a conversation. And now that I'm doing games and I'm prepping and having calls with the coaches and getting to go down on the field and get nuggets that, I get to tell the audience who's listening to the game, I'm doing that with friends and colleagues and people that I respect that coached me or I played against that I wanted to beat their brains in, but now we're on the other side, and these guys are now in a league where SEC is literally the dominant power in all sports, and I get to be somewhat of a small voice in leading the charge and seeing college baseball continue to get bigger. You let it off with a great question. You asked me Coach Bryant or Coach Saban, and I think that's one of the things I feel with Coach Bryant. Like, you think about college football was a thing, but when Coach Bryant brought it in, it was the thing. And so it's like that for, I think, college baseball, the needle's moving in the right direction for guys like you that continue to talk about it. Hopefully college baseball continues to move that way.
Well, we need to talk about this in person. One of the sponsors of Gary Harris' show is Billy's. So I suggest we meet there, have a beverage and some pasta or one of those chicken sandwiches. David, thank you so much for your time.
Hey, Matt, thanks for having me on. I look forward to following up with you. I'll take you up on that.
I'll come see you soon. Thank you. David Kindred joining us on the Gary Harris Show. Speaking of the Texas A&M deal, next hour we'll go to Houston and talk about that. The NFL, Miko Ryans with Cole Thompson, who is a member of the media there and went to the University of Alabama. We'll do all that coming up after the top of the hour.
Download the free Upside app and use promo code TURN for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code TURN for a 25 cents per gallon bonus.
WTBC Tuscaloosa and W265CG Tuscaloosa, a Town Square media station. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app. From the Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles, here's Dan Byer.
The NBA draft is in the rearview mirror, but still some moves being made. The Athletic reports the Raptors and Emmanuel quickly have agreed to terms at a 5-year, $175 million deal. The Athletic also reports that the Mavericks traded Tim Hardaway Jr. and 3 second-rounders to Detroit for Quentin Grimes. Last night in the WNBA, the Storm beat the Fever 89-77. Jewel Lloyd had 34 points for Seattle. Caitlin Clark, 15.6 rebounds and 7 assists in a losing effort. Aces won in Chicago against the the Sky 95-83. Asia Wilson 31 points. Angel Reese another double-double in the losing effort. 18 points, 11 rebounds. Yankees have lost 4 in a row, falling to the Blue Jays 9-2. Angels blank the Tigers 4-0. An MRI today coming for Bryce Harper of the Phillies as the first baseman left last night's 7-4 loss to the Marlins because of a hamstring strain. Second round of the Rocket Mortgage Classic, Akshay Bhatia leads at 12 under par.
Now, this hour's West Alabama real-time news update from the Tuscaloosa Thread Newsroom.
Alabama Democrats are expressing anxiety over the halting performance of President Biden during last night's presidential debate in Atlanta. State Republicans are questioning whether Biden is competent enough to run for president. And Miss Alabama will be selected tomorrow night in Birmingham. Tuscaloosa is being represented by Sydney Cantley. Miss University of Alabama is Marissa Luna, and Anna Elizabeth Jones, Miss Walker County. 3 players from Kentucky, 1 from Tennessee, the only SEC players selected in the first 2 rounds of the NBA draft.
Get 24/7 local news coverage and sports updates when you download the free Tuscaloosa Thread app and sign up for twice daily email newsletters. The Gary Harris Show. UCM host Tider Insider TV. Crimson Tide Kickoff. Play-by-play for Alabama sports and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Gary Harris is taking some vacay days. Matt Coulter sitting in for him. As I did yesterday, I will today, and hopefully again on Monday. But appreciate that very much. Glad to sit in for Gary here on Tide 100.9 and 1230 WTBC. Our second hour of the Gary Harris Show is being brought to you by Patterson Comer Law Firm. Patterson Comer is dedicated to serving their clients. Integrity and excellence are the driving force behind the firm and its staff. Clients and prospective clients are treated with respect and care. Our business is to take care of your needs. Call Paul Patterson in Tuscaloosa at 205-345-1000. Or you can call Mike Comer in Northport at 205-759-3939, PattersonComerLawFirm.com.
No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of services performed by other lawyers.
I imagine a lot of you watched the debate last night. Some of you may just flipped over and caught something on MLB Network. But we're not talking about the debate, okay? But I thought it would be interesting to follow up on that with a debate that will go on for lifetimes. Saban Bryant, just your personal opinion, who you think was the best. You want to dial in, please do, at 205-342-9904. We discussed that a lot last hour. We'll pick it up again. Cole Thompson, Texas media member, will be joining us in just a few minutes. We've talked to him about that and many other things. So if you'd like to join us and talk about that, it doesn't have to be between the Bryant and Saban thing, and be just about anything. You can call 205-342-9904. One of the things that has gone on the past 2 days, and because Alabama didn't have a stake, and I mean it's the state, didn't have a real stake in this, the NBA draft. I mean, I don't keep up a lot with the NBA. I'll be very honest with you. I used to as a kid. I loved Hal Greer. How many? Raise your hand if you ever heard of Hal Greer. Not many. But nobody's drafted. Alabama Auburn, which is rare, especially with the caliber of these two teams, those two programs. And plus UAB, Andy Kennedy, what they're doing. But the biggest story is Bronny James. Did anybody not see this coming? Bronny was drafted by the Lakers so he could play with his dad. Wyatt, I want to bring you, and if you can throw a microphone in Chase Brumfield's direction, do that. But have you ever seen an NBA draft in this state pass by with just nothing but a whisper?
This was weird for sure. I was watching a little bit last night with my girlfriend, and we had to look up some of these players.
because this is kind of like an unreal draft. But I got to learn more and what to expect for Summer League, and especially when they get on the floor for opening season. But, it kind of brings up some new possibilities and everything. And it's kind of weird with, like, not a lot of American players got drafted. It was more like international wave. So I thought it was pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's been leaning that way for a while. I guess was Dirk kind of the first one that really made the turn? I mean, I don't know how old you are, but you might not remember Dirk Nowitzki. But he was that tall, thin, 6'11", something like that? That could...
I believe so.
Play the 1, the 2, the 3. And he could bomb from 25 feet out. But we're seeing a parade, and it's a great point. You're seeing a parade of European players come in, and what just always kind of strikes me as funny is that it just seems like, where did the French learn to play basketball? You know what I mean? I mean, these big, tall, thin European players, and nothing against France. It's just, if you're looking at the globe, spinning it around, you think, well, maybe there'd be more people from Italy. I don't know. Maybe I have a European bias. But anyway, would Bronny James have been drafted if not for his father?
That is a good question. You kind of look at his career at USC. I don't know. I don't think so. I kind of think there's some nepotism in there to kind of argue it. Bronny had a little bit of a rough career at USC post his health scare, but I don't know if he would have got drafted if it wasn't for the Lakers, in my opinion.
Have you seen tape on him?
Yeah, I'm from Los Angeles, California. So,
are you really?
Yes, I am. I was able to just see a little bit of him, actually in high school when he was at Sierra Canyon. And he's shown some potential. I just feel like, I don't know, I feel like he still has some more growth to develop, and I don't know, I just feel like it was a little too early to get drafted this year.
You read the scouting reports, the NBA scouting reports on this guy?
Yes, I have. It was very interesting to see that.
And not good at all.
Yeah, not good.
I mean, I saw one where they were listing, qualities needed for an NBA player. Ability to move your left, ability to dribble your right, passing skills, shooting skills, all that. None of them rated worthy of drafting. So, but maybe he's a late bloomer. I don't think there's any question that his dad had everything to do with his being drafted and going to the Lakers. Maybe he becomes Ken Griffey Jr. What? Excuse me. I can't believe I said that. I don't think he has the game, and it's really unfortunate for kids that are, you're a child of a superstar. So much pressure on you. All right, I got to dig a little bit deeper on this L.A. thing. What part of L.A. did you grow up in?
I grew up in Woodland Hills. Went there for middle school, high school. So I know the good area of Los Angeles. It's crazy because Gary going to the beach, I am super jealous if you can hear me. Please enjoy the waves for me and just hearing just the quietness of it. So, but yeah, L.A., born and raised.
All right, well, we say L.A. is Lower Alabama, which means Gulf Shores, okay? I don't know if you've ever heard that, but you probably have. But have you been to the beaches at Alabama or along the Emerald Coast with Pensacola and Panama City? Have you been down there?
I have not. I have some friends that are from there, and they love it. They try to get me to come out there in the summer, during the spring, but I just don't have the time to, especially now that I'll be working, hopefully, here at Ty 100. But, yeah, I definitely got to find some time to go down there.
Well, I've been to both, and I have a bias because I'm an Alabama guy, but the beaches are just absolutely You have to see it. I know you've seen pictures, but our coast, I think we have a total of 52 miles of coastline in the state of Alabama. 52 miles. But they are absolutely spectacular. All right, Chase, let me ask you a couple more questions. We'll get to a break and we'll bring Cole on. But if you grew up out there, does that mean you're a Dodgers, Rams, Lakers guy?
It's funny you say that because a lot of my family is actually from New Orleans. So
Wow, you want to talk about other ends of the spectrum. That's great.
Yeah, so I have people in Baton Rouge and Alexandria, more in New Orleans side. So I was just bred being a New Orleans Saints, and when the Pelicans got there eventually, just kind of learning more about them and just keeping up with it. So it's definitely something fun to do.
I don't think I've ever met anybody that has a cross-reference between New Orleans, Louisiana, and Los Angeles, California. That is a first for me. But well, I'll ask you this question, and I'll stop wearing you out. What brought you to Alabama? Is it the U of A?
So my girlfriend, she's actually a graduate student there for social work, and she was like, "Hey, like, why don't you just come down to Tuscaloosa? They're known for sports, Roll Tide." And I was like, "Hey, I want to get my brand out there and just really be in sports journalism and just learn from like you and other guests that have come on your show. I think it's a blessing, really, that I get to be experienced to this and just learn from you guys. So that was the real reason I came to Tuscaloosa."
Have you taken any of Lars Anderson's courses?
I have not yet.
You need to do that. First of all, it's an easy B. It's an A if you just attend. I probably shouldn't say that on a huge radio station in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. But it's a great course because he has a lot of hands-on experience. Okay, Cole Thompson is on deck. We will go to Houston, Texas after we break here on the Gary Harris Show.
Discover better living at First and Main. Visit firstandmaincondos.com or call 205-657-7465. Mention you heard about us on the radio and receive 1 month free rent.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The sky partially sunny today. A chance of widely scattered showers or thunderstorms. The high 93. Tonight fair with the low at 75. And tomorrow a mixture of clouds and sunshine with scattered showers and thunderstorms around. The high 92. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 84 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Stay up to date with the Crimson Tide. Local high school sports and Bama in the pros right here on Tide 100.9.
Matt Coulter in for Gary Harris. Taking your phone calls at 205-342-9904. Let's go to Joe. Joe, what's on your plate? What are you having for lunch?
I'm not sure, Matt.
Okay. Hey, man, it's good to hear from you. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm doing better.
Good.
I am. I think you've had a really good show today.
Thank you.
It's good hearing you on the radio, too. You've been great at it for a long time.
Well, and you know what? You probably were one of the first 2 or 3 people that called when I left Channel 13 and went into radio. Joe's a longtime friend and a huge baseball guy and an integral part of what happened with the MLB at Rickwood. Can we talk about that for just a second?
If you want to, yeah. I was really more on the periphery. There was 4 or 5 guys, and you know the old saying, you don't need too many chefs in the kitchen. Absolutely. There were 4 or 5 guys off that board that dealt with Major League Baseball. And I will say again, the chairman of the board, Gerald Watkins, it wouldn't have happened without him. And he had some good support behind him.
And when you say that, Joe, it literally would not have happened without Gerald Watkins and his meeting with, I can't remember the guy's name, but he was way up, top shelf in MLB. And they struck up this conversation, and in about a year, y'all made it happen. So cool.
One of the things Gerald would talk about, or that people don't know, was we couldn't get our foot in the door for the game. And I think 2 years ago, the Mississippi Braves came to play the Barons over at Regions, and several of them showed up unannounced at Rickwood. And one of them was a guy up in the farm system, and told Gerald, "Hey, you need to try for the game." And Gerald says, "I've been trying. I can't get anywhere." And they said, "Well, give me a little time. Give us a little time. We'll make some calls and some emails." So the Braves had were integral in making it happen. They opened the door.
That's cool. Real cool. Joe,
you
I
know,
would love...
Matt, yeah. I was going to tell you, if I had $1 for all the years, I've been associated with Rickwood, every time I was told that it was a rundown ballpark, it was in a bad area, nobody will come, there's no purpose, nothing's ever going to happen there, I would be rich beyond belief.
We both would.
And look what happened. And we couldn't do that without friends in the media as well. Media was very important.
That's one of those things that everybody could get behind, and even with the media. I mean, how could you pull against Rickwood Field? Man, I have such fond memories, and I could go into detail, and maybe I will a little bit later on my show, on Gary's show anyway. But I've got my next guest online. I would love to discuss this further, whether it's in Vestavia or on the air. But Joe,
well, give me a call.
I cherish your friendship, and I appreciate you calling in.
Thank you. Bye-bye, man.
All right. Cole Thompson is our guest. I think I first met him as he was a student under, speaking of, Lars Anderson, University of Alabama. Hey, Cole, what's happening in Texas?
Now, God, where do we start? I mean, honestly, where do you want to start? Do you want to start in Austin? Do you want to start in College Station? Do you want to talk about NFL? I mean, there's everywhere right now. I mean, it is a hot month. It is coming down to the end of reaching the 102-degree weather, and we're about ready to start 105-degree weather. But, the good news is that it is scorching news to close out June.
Well, let's start in the first one you mentioned, College Station and Austin. You're an insider in the media. You probably had heard that this was going to happen, but can you give us the inside of the heart of Texas view on Aggies, Longhorns, and how everybody feels about this?
So I can personally tell you guys from the people that I spoke to leading up to Game 3 that Jim Schlossnagle either had it very well kept under wraps or definitely was only speaking to a select few people and letting them know that at the season's end, he was going to take the job. From everyone that I've reached out to since the hiring, it was evident that conversations had begun with Chris Del Conte, who has a former relationship with Jim Schlossnagle during his time at the University of Texas Christian at TCU, that they were going to work together. David Pierce was basically told he had to meet certain requirements this upcoming year going into the SEC to be brought back. It wasn't a good fit at that point. This was the year to make the move. So right around regionals, actually right after regionals, there was a deal in place for Jim Schlossnagle to leave to go to Texas. Unfortunately, due to the NCAA violations, you're not allowed to speak on those subjects with any of your players. However, things got drastically out of control that night following the game where Tennessee gets the win. Richard Zane, he is a very close friend of mine. I've known him for years in this industry, asked the question. And Schlossnagle pulls what many people would consider to be Tommy Tuberville on steroids mixed with a batch of methamphetamine level of answer to come out.
Whoa.
And at that point, people were livid because they were told that Schloss was willing to stick around and speak to Trev Alberts about the brand new stadium, $80 million renovations, and then just like that, leaves in the middle of the night. Players found out through social media that he was gone. I can only imagine a handful of players, the ones that are in the transfer portal right now, at least had a clear understanding that this was a possibility and that there was going to be a conversation to be had. But at the end of the day, Texas is a great program. You know, from the schematic standpoint of what to talk about with these two programs, Texas has been one of the superior baseball entities in the sport. They have six national championships. On top of that, they've been to the College World Series 33 times. And they have the funds. They have the resources. You know, people don't want to understand this, and it sucks, but it's the reality. Texas is showing up to the SEC with the chair, and they're going to plant themselves at the big boy table. They will look at Missouri. They will look at Ole Miss. They will look at Texas A&M. They will scoff and say, you guys go back to the kiddie table at this point. We're here, and we have the funds to do so. So that was never the case. And then when people talk about, you know, Schlossnagle and his relationship with Chris Del Conte, that definitely played a major role. The problem where most Texas A&M fans have an issue is he didn't tell the players about this. He lied to boosters. He wasn't being full-fledged honest with those in the decision-making department. He left the team out high and dry as soon as he returned down. Literally, he was not there for longer than 2 hours before he departed for Austin. And he now ends up putting the team in a very difficult situation because he promised things to players and those inside the locker room that this was only the start of something new. It would be one thing to say, listen, I'm going off to Texas because I believe that this is the best fit for me. But it was the way he answered the question, how bullish he was talking about the program, and less than 24 hours later is on a flight to Austin to become the next head coach of the Longhorns, as they are yet to even be members of the SEC, but soon will be.
Well, you phrased it correctly when you said they'll pull their chair up to the table in the SEC and they'll automatically think they are the big boy, the big boss. And to a certain degree, they will be. You say you're good friends with Richard, the reporter that asked the question?
I am. I've known Richard for about 4 years now. And he,
all right.
to be completely transparent, I'm glad that he asked the question because at the end of the day, he got a great answer because of the relationship he has with that organization.
And I asked this because you were a journalism graduate at the University of Alabama, as was I. And I thought he phrased the question perfectly. There's never an opportune time to ask a question like that when you've lost a national championship, the College World Series. But just from a journalism standpoint, I thought he handled himself very well. And did Schlossnagle not address that later and apologize?
So I wasn't actually able to attend the event this past year in Omaha. For starters, if you have never been to Omaha to go to the College World Series, might I tell all Alabama fans, might I tell everyone who is a college baseball fanatic, please make the trip to Charles Schwab Field. It is a unique experience that truly embraces college athletics. And it's baffling that we don't have a major institution in Omaha because they truly embrace what is college. And that's just the number one. But there were a lot of reporters that I did know that were at the event and were in the press room afterwards. And there's been a report that has been released by 247 Sports, Carter Corellis, who is phenomenal at his work. If you haven't checked him out, please do. Where he brings up that Schlossnagle walked out. Richard and Billy Lucci, the owner of TexAgs and probably the most well-sourced person in the media when it comes to Texas A&M, went to have a conversation. And the words, paraphrasing, were, well, this is the last time I will be speaking to you. Never contact me again. And that was Schloss's response to him putting him on the spot minutes after losing the national championship. There's a lot wrong with that. And just from a journalism ethic code 101, you have to ask the question because it is a big, big opportunity. This isn't a job like Clemson, or this isn't a job like I would even throw in Mississippi, Ole Miss, that have been good in baseball, but definitely don't carry that same pizzazz the way Texas does. Texas, again, is an pioneer in college athletics, and it's a pioneer in college baseball. And the relationship between Chris Del Conte and Jim Schlossnagle has been very well evident, which ultimately led to the downfall of him leading TCU to come to Texas A&M. When Del Conte left TCU, everyone started to bring up in conversations, and I've spoken to some people in Fort Worth, the writing was on the wall at that point that there was eventually going to be a move from Schlossnagle. He was going to take a job elsewhere. Would it be Texas? Would it be Texas A&M? Would it be Texas Tech? Nobody had any idea at that point, but still there was going to be a move eventually made. And because of that, this is where now you have the conversation of why answer it that way? Why be so emphatically involved when you know that it's not going to happen? You could have said anything. You could have said, right now my heart is with the players. My sights are set on this organization and where we go. My team is based off, all of my ideas right now are with the actual team. We will have further conversation. No comment would have worked. But instead, you decided to go gung-ho on the situation, saying that you basically are pulling a Tommy Tuberville and then leave in the middle of the night. And then you come up with and pardon my French, but half-ass apology to Richard Zane, calling him a young reporter. No, I have been in press rooms where Nick Saban has gone after young reporters for asking dumb questions, and he handled it with grace and maturity. That has not anything to do with anything of being young. That has to do with a personality and an enigma around yourself that you believe that you are the king of the crop. You are entitled to speak down and belittle reporters for doing their job. That was the way that I took it. So the apology that was given already in a very awkward press conference. I was lucky enough to cover Schloss in person for 3 years. I've never seen him that nervous. I've never seen him be that fumbling for words. I've never seen him be at that level of unknowingness of what is with this industry. So to have that became a concern.
Wow. Really, really good stuff. Cole, can you hang through a break? I'd like to continue this conversation. You got time?
Sure, I got you guys.
I want to give you my follow-up question after last night's debate. No, we're not going to talk politics. Saban or Bryant? I'll give you the length of the break to think about that. In the meantime, you're listening to the Gary Harris Show. It's brought to you in part by YMCA of Tuscaloosa, Y's leading voice on health and well-being. They bring your families closer together, encourage good health, always have. And they foster connections through fitness, sports, and fun. Millions of youths, adults, and families receive support, guidance, and resources for greater health and spirit at the YMCA in Tuscaloosa. They're 2300 13th Street, or you can call them at 205-345-9622. Back with more of the Gary Harris Show with Cole Thompson in a minute.
We want to make sure that we give that to them each and every time they come and visit us.
The sense of pride that we have in the quality, the consistency of our food carries over to everything we do in the stores. That's Taco Casa.
Patterson-Comer is dedicated to serving our clients. At Patterson-Comer, we invite you to contact us with any questions concerning legal issues that are a result of personal injury, wrongful death, product liability, or 18-wheeler accidents. Our business is to take care of your needs. Call Paul Patterson in Tuscaloosa at 205-345-1000 or Mike Comer in Northport at 205-759-3939. Patterson-Comer Law Firm, the commitment to serve our clients does not stop at the end of the workday. We're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Visit PattersonComerLawFirm.com.
No representation is made that the legal services provided by Patterson Comer is greater than any other legal services performed by any other lawyer.
As much as Innisfree has evolved, it will always be that place to escape and have a good time. Whether it's for a game day weekend, to reminisce on college days, or to create new memories, if you're looking for a good time, there's only one thing to do. Head to the Free at 1925 University Boulevard. And don't forget about the Lucky Lunch Meat and 3 special, Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. until 2 p.m. Get a meat and 3 vegetables for just $8.49. Or for a lighter appetite, try the Lucky Lunch soup, salad, or sandwich combo. I'll see you at the Free.
Covering University of Alabama sports, as well as the national and local scene as well. The Gary Harris Show, only on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Back on the Gary Harris Show. Matt Coulter sitting here on Tide 100.9 and 1230 WTBC. Our guest is Cole Thompson. Cole was so often a guest on Big Noon Sports with myself and Lars Anderson that I guess called you to get on the show today, and I just didn't even give you a proper introduction and allow you the opportunity to tell people what you do. So I'm going to, hand it off to you. Tell her, I know you do radio here and writing here. Tell everybody how they can find Cole Thompson.
I don't sleep, which is, I think, a big reason why I do everything that I do. It has been a blessing in disguise because I just love what I'm able to do and work in sports. But currently, I am a professional blabber, is the way I would put it, for SEC Unfiltered, which is a growing company, and on YouTube. You can check us out at SECUnfiltered.com, also on YouTube at SEC Unfiltered. Later this week, actually, we are dropping a one-on-one exclusive interview with Alabama quarterback Jalen Milroe. I got to sit down with him and ask some questions about the future of the organization, the direction of the team, one player that I think everyone in the SEC needs to know about pretty quickly. So go make sure that you check that out. If you want to follow me on social media, it's at Mr. Cole Thompson. I also cover the NFL for multiple websites, and I have my own show.
Wow, you really don't sleep.
I don't.
Hey,
I am pure on caffeine every single second of the day.
All right, what is your caffeine of choice?
If I could do Alani Nu, which is a energy drink that is supposed to be one of the healthier ones, I will probably down 2 or 3 of those per day. I'm not a big coffee person. I never really have been. I can't do Red Bull. I can't do Monster. I can mix in a few energy drinks here and there, but coffee is usually not my intake of choice. I'm actually having a cup right now because I had to go run up to my parents' house to watch their dogs for the weekend, and they don't have anything here. So it is a nice black cup of coffee in my hand right now, about 20 ounces.
Well, if you ever did morning radio, and I'm talking about getting up at 4:30 and going to the air at 6, you become a coffee addict. I'm on my 4th cup right now. Now,
Matt, I do overnights. I did overnights for 3 years. So I was up at midnight for a 2 a.m. show until 6 a.m.
You did the graveyard shift?
I did the graveyard shift for 3 years. That was my shift.
Everybody that ever gets into broadcasting should have to work 6 months, midnight to 6. Everybody.
They have
should
to.
be a rule.
They have to. They have to. And here's the thing, Matt. I don't care what age you are. I don't want to hear that, I'm 40 and I have kids at home. You want to break into the industry, my friend, you better learn everything about having to work with a producer that is half asleep and you're having to go on tyrant rants to be able to make it work. I am telling you, everyone in this country needs to work as a waiter so that way they understand why tipping is important. And if you work in radio, you must spend 6 months on the graveyard shift. Those are necessities. I don't make the rules. I just address them.
That's why you and I get along so well. All right, before I get into this, I just love Fridays because we can just freelance, okay? But I was thinking about during the break, I said, hey, Matt, you need to get Cole and let everybody know where, i.e., they could find the Jalen Milroe interview. And I started thinking about, would you tell everybody that's listening on Tide 100.9 and 1230 WTBC how Lars Anderson almost ruined your life?
Yeah, Lars almost told everyone, thankfully my wife doesn't listen to every radio interview that I do, but I was going away that weekend to actually I was actually proposing that weekend, and he decides to go ahead and stay on air. So have you done the proposal yet? It's like, hey buddy, no. Thankfully, my wife's not listening, so that's a big win for me. You almost completely destroyed the surprise. Spent thousands of dollars to prepare for this moment, but yeah, and by the way, he didn't even show up to the wedding, and he didn't even send me a wedding gift. So there we go. So it's like even worse. Yeah, see, I bring that up. Lars didn't even come to the wedding.
That's a part of the story I didn't know about.
So again, he nearly ruined my life with my wife, and then as a reward, you know what? This is probably best for me not to show up right now. No, I mean, he had a good excuse. I completely understand. And I'm sure when he comes on and talks to me later, he'll go, I can't believe you told that story. Yeah.
Oh,
what are friends for, Lars?
I tell it to people all the time because I couldn't see through the phone line, but then again, I could just see your jaw. dropping like, hey, Nimrod, I told you that in confidence. But anyway.
No.
All right. Nick Saban, Paul Bryant. I know you're of the Saban era, and I am of the Bryant and Saban both, but you could argue this either way and win. But Cole, who's better? And I'm talking about coach at Alabama, not entire career, but their time at the University of Alabama, in your opinion, who is the better football coach?
So, Matt, I am one of the proponents, and I've said this before, and I do this with athletes all the time. I truly don't like comparing goats to goats because I think that when you look at what was given during the era, there are certain things that have enhanced over time that allow coaches to progress with their careers. And it's like the entire argument with Babe Ruth. You know, he hit less than 200 and the fat man wouldn't be able to get a home run out of most ballparks. Well, that's the era. So, unfortunately, you can't compare the two. That's why Babe Ruth is still considered one of the greatest of all time. And the same thing goes for, I think, Bear Bryant. That being said, when you look at the accolades and the numbers that have progressed outside of just the game of college football, when it comes to recruiting, how many number one recruiting classes does Nick Saban have? When you look at SEC conference titles and the way that he was able to combat the consistency of building rosters and relationships that would always find their way to Atlanta, that goes to Saban. When you look at the ability to be able to relate to players a little bit more and help them build relationships well past the game of football, goes to Saban a little bit more. National championships, they're both tied at 6, but you also have to realize that back in the day, several of the national championships underneath Paul Bryant were rewarded by the Associated Press. And so the national championship game was really determined during the regular season where Nick Saban had to go win in Atlanta. Then he had to go make sure that during the BCS era, they were a top 2 team every season. They then had to play usually a quality opponent. And then the college football playoff expansion goes to 4 teams. So now they have 2 more games that they have to go toe-to-toe with. And on top of that, usually they were the definitive roster. Every single year you knew what these teams were. You knew exactly how they performed. They outclassed, outworked, outgained, outdominated the opponent on the opposing side 9 times out of 10. And so when you look at all of those things combated in, it's hard to not say Nick Saban. It's very hard not to say Saban. It's also hard for me as somebody who doesn't know what the era was like outside of just reading books and doing research and going through relationship roster construction. It's hard for me to say one way or another that, yes, Paul Bryant, who will go down in history as one of the greatest coaches when it came to grit, determination, roster construction, his ability to work players and get the best version of them out. And it goes back to his days at Kentucky, to Texas A&M, to Alabama as well. You know, those are things that definitely carried weight. But I've seen Nick Saban. I've seen the relationships he has constructed. I've seen the way that he goes about coaching. You hear the stories about what players think. It's hard to lean a different way. That's all I can say.
Well, in the same vein in which you started your comments, and that it's tough to compare because of eras, you know? The game was different. The players are different. But to me, that's why I lean towards Coach Bryant, is because while Nick Saban certainly had to transition through some cultural changes, Paul Bryant went from GIs to afros, the black athlete, integral part of college athletics. And then when he changed from the running game to the passing game to the wishbone, I just think that he was a little bit more time. I think 24, 25 years at Alabama with Nick Saban was just 17. I think he dealt with more difficult times in America. I mean, from smoking pot and the hippies, you know, to then the disco era and all that. Saban had to transition through some of that, but nothing like Paul Bryant, who went from the Junction Boys to winning 6 national championships of Alabama. So there's my thought on that, Cole.
Yeah, but at the same time, when you think about it real fast, Matt, I don't mean to cut you off.
Sure. No,
you look at Saban, the thing that stands out is everyone ran the same type of offensive consistencies. Everyone had the same personnel looks. Everyone had the same type of ideologies when it came to coaching back in the 1960s. And I'm not saying that Bryant didn't work his way through it. But you look at coaches nowadays, the reason why some have been fired is because that they're so set in their ways as the game adapts. And the biggest transition for Nick Saban in his tenure was the fact that he was a chameleon and that he was willing to embrace change. He realized that some offensive ideologies didn't work, and that was why he moved off of Doug Nussmeier and brought in Lane Kiffin. It's why he brought in Mike Locksley. It's why he went to Steve Sarkisian. And it's why he went to, at the very end, Tommy Rees's offensive coordinator. It wasn't his first choice, but he went to him because he had to stay the course of the game. And if he chose to go in a different pathway, the history of Alabama football as we know it may have been completely different because of it.
Well, I will counter with this. Alabama had back-to-back 6-5 seasons going through the offense and defense of the 60s under Paul Bryant, and they were throwing the ball with Scott Hunter 50 times a game. Next year they turn around, they throw it 6 times and run the wishbone. So Coach Bryant adapted on and off the field as well, and that's why this is much better than what happened last night. That debate is that debate. This debate is fun. This is not grueling,
There's never a winner in debates when it comes to politics because it's just a bunch of boo-hoos and crybabies that are just screaming at each other for their own substances. These debates are fun because it's literally like, what would you rather do? Would you rather wrestle? Mike Leach still to this day is the king of debates when talking about college football mascots. Who would win in the fight? A sun god beating up on a bear, beating up on a tree. And those are things that we all care about.
Hey, real quick, as we go to break, and I thank you so much for your time. Have you ever seen the video when he was in Lubbock of him doing the weather?
Oh, it's one of the greatest videos of all time.
I urge it.
We would have to be here for 45 minutes if I could just tell every story I have on Mike Leach. This is the top 10 moments of his career. That didn't involve coaching. It did not involve coaching.
Oh, absolutely. He called a friend of mine, a member of the media, at halftime during a game at Mississippi State. Who does that?
Exactly.
Yeah. Hey, Cole, it's been a blast. I'll tell Lars you said hey, and we'll do it again real soon. I appreciate your time.
Take care, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right, you bet. Cole Thompson, all things Texas and a lot more. You're listening to the Gary Harris Show on a Friday afternoon. Yeah, it's starting to get steamy and hot and humid. That's okay. You're in Alabama in June. What do you expect? Back to wrap up the Gary Harris Show in just a minute.
Coming up on The Game with Ryan Fowler.
Coming up on the Friday edition of The Game, we're going to react to some recruiting news involves the University of Alabama that is expected to happen shortly before we start at 2 p.m. We're also going to feature Scott Cochran. Going to be an in-depth conversation, 2 different segments to talk with him. Scott Cochran, a former strength conditioning coach at the University of Alabama. We're going to honor Coach Saban and talk about a group that he has founded. We'll talk about that. Brent Beard, right here on a Free-for-All Friday, sponsored by Brian Harden Construction, starting at 2 p.m. on The Game on Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
The longest running sports program.
Control growth. They also perform an important function by controlling blood pressure and minerals like calcium and potassium to keep the entire body healthy.
Since 2011, Billy's Sports Grill, located on Main Avenue in historic downtown Northport, has been serving their legendary signature chicken sandwich, award-winning wings, and handcrafted cocktails. Billy's is also the spot to watch all your favorite sporting events with big screen, high-definition televisions in both dining rooms, at the bar, and outside on the beautiful patio. Come by and say hello to Kim and Lisa, the Billy's Management Dream Team. Billy's, good food, good friends, and good time.
Life doesn't wait for when your finances are in perfect order. It just happens. But no matter what surprises come your way, Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgages, and auto loans. They offer an easy application process and fast decisions so you can stay focused on feeling good about whatever life brings your way. Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgages,
and high quality ingredients. We want to say, that sounds great. We've been doing that since 1974. Under the biggest cactus in town, Taco Casa.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The sky partially sunny today, a chance of widely scattered showers or thunderstorms, the high 93. Tonight fair with the low at 75. And tomorrow, a mixture of clouds and sunshine with scattered showers and thunderstorms around, the high 92. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 92 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Did you miss any episode on Tide 100.9? Don't worry. All of our shows can be found on Spotify and Apple Music and on demand on the Tide 100.9 app.
It's the Gary Harris Show. Gary, happy birthday. Day late. He is taking some vacation time. Certainly earned and deserved. And I'm Matt Coulter. I'm going to sit in for him today again and also on Monday. So, and I've enjoyed it. It's been a whole lot of fun. And none of these shows ever go without great producers. And Wyatt Fulton is one of those. And in studio as well is Chase Brumfield. And I want to say something, guys, as we roll out here in our final segment on a Friday, because you both knew the guy, but Justin Jones, I guess, was a week ago his last day. Does that sound right?
Yep, last Friday was the last day.
You ever seen Moneyball? I love that movie.
I have. I watch it before the opening night of the MLB every year.
It's just very underrated sports movie. Pitt and Jonah Hill are they're unbelievable. And what's the guy's name? Unfortunately, some Michael Seymour played Art Howe.
I think so.
There's a lot of good things about that movie. But I sent Justin a text about, towards the very end of the movie, Pitt, Billy Bean, was having a conversation with Jonah Hill, Pete. And he looks kind of back over his shoulder at him and goes, Pete, you're a good egg. I'm not sure if this generation understands what that means. It means a lot to baby boomers. We know exactly what it means. But that's what I would say to Justin. Justin, you're a good egg. Do you guys ever say stuff like that? You're a good egg. Have you ever heard that before you saw that movie?
Before I saw that movie, no, I'd never heard of that. But I don't say it currently, but it's something that my dad says a lot.
I like your dad. Chase, I got to bring you on because we didn't get your opinion on this. So the debate is open. Bryant, Saban, the microphone is yours.
Man, I would have to pick Saban on a number of reasons. Like I said earlier, my family is from New Orleans, so they're LSU Tiger fans. So I got to see both when he was at LSU and then when he came to Alabama. The way Saban was able to rile up my family on Saturdays as the Alabama head coach was insane. I was like, relax, just watch greatness. But the way he just was able to control a family room after a crazy week, whatever we had going on, just kind of shows just how great Nick Saban is, not just on the field, but off the field. As the way he conducted press conferences, like I would watch a lot of his YouTube clips during high school, and just how journalists would ask questions and how much respect they had for Coach Saban. And I think it speaks just not only in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, but around the world how much respect he has. And I think also he was just more of my generation, same as Wyatt. I think I didn't really see much of Mr. Bryant, but I'd definitely love to get more into how much of an impact he had for Tuscaloosa as a whole. But yeah, I just have to ride with Saban on this one.
Coach Bryant was literally bigger than life in the state of Alabama and nationally as well. I cherish the fact that I was able to cover his last couple of years, 80, 81, 82. It's just the fact that I got to interview that guy one-on-one is just, man, What an unbelievable way to start your sportscasting career. I will, however, you're talking about Saban at LSU. I was fortunate to be in the broadcast booth for the UAB network. You remember when UAB came down there and spanked LSU? That might have been before your time, Chase. I don't know. But
I don't remember UAB doing it, but I remember Troy a couple of years ago getting paid $1 million to be LSU's homecoming and then beating them in that game, too.
Yep. Well, UAB did it in Saban's first year, and you know how rabid Bengal Tiger fans are. I think it was maybe at the midway point of the season, something like that. They were ready to run Saban out of Baton Rouge on rails after they lost to lowly UAB. But that was a really, really cool time. Just a couple of minutes before the top of the hour, just to kind of go over a couple of things as we hand it back over to Wyatt Fulton, who is going to be doing his show until noon. But Bronny James went to the Lakers. Do you know? Do you care? Would it have ever happened without his dad? It's a resounding no to the final question. That's the fact that Bronny doesn't have the game, and the national pundits won't tell you this. Even though the last 2 days, the NBA draft wasn't about who was selected, it was about when is Bronny going to be selected. Lakers come around, they have to pick him. Is he good enough to have a career in the NBA? Hey, maybe he blooms later. But right now, I would say absolutely not. Those of you keeping up with Major League Baseball, I got to give a shout out to Selma, Alabama's Gunnar Henderson. Baltimore Orioles. Even if you don't keep up a lot with Major League Baseball, you got to keep up with Gunnar. I mean, this guy is having a career already. And that wraps it up. Hey, I'm going to go get my 5th cup of coffee. And call. Hey, Wyatt, Chase, thank you. And we'll be back and do this again on Monday on the Gary Harris Show. Have a great weekend.